Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. We have Adam on with us this evening once again and joined by a very new face to the Franchise Tag Podcast, a special guest for us this evening. Sky has joined us tonight, New England Patriots fan. Very happy to have you on, Sky, in what has been a fantastic weekend of NFL football. I was so excited I poured my whole glass of water down me just before we started. That's how crazy, that's how excited I am about the NFL. I want water everywhere. I'm soaking wet here. So lots of things to talk about today. Obviously, very playoff centric. Looking at teams who are going, looking at the teams that are out as well. Firstly, though, massive news coming out this week about Damar Hamlin. Fantastic news that he has been allowed to go home. He's been discharged from hospital. All thoughts and prayers are with Damar and his family, and fantastic positive news for him and for the NFL in general. What a weekend of football. They all got in, the AFC, the NFC, the AFC. We must congratulate the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals. And on the NFC side, we must congratulate the Philadelphia Eagles, Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers, New York Giants, Minnesota Vikings. I even forgot about the LA Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So many teams. But unfortunately, there's three teams that I didn't list, and that is all three of our teams. I had opportunities to get through to that. Sky, I'll start with you this evening. A gutting weekend for the Patriots and for the Steelers as well. You know, if it weren't for Jason Sanders, well, if it weren't just for Jason Sanders, I suppose. I mean, the Patriots could have put up a game against the Buffalo Bills as well. But we miss out on the playoffs once again. Gutting or deserved?
I think the thing that disappoints me the most is that Belichick's obviously renowned for being a special teams expert, and we gave up 2 touchdowns on special teams. And I think if that didn't happen, it would have been a bit more of a dogfight, typical divisional game. But just got away from us a bit. It was good that Mac Jones finally got some decent plays called from him by Matt Patricia. But hopefully won't have to deal with that next season. We'll see. But no, I think overall, I guess Buffalo have been the best team in the AFC East all year. So, you know, they deserved it. As much as that pains me to say. I was hoping the Steelers would get in if it wasn't us instead of Miami, but it is what it is.
I was hoping as well. And I have to say, out of all the tweets that keep popping up about head coaches, coordinators getting interviewed for these head coaching positions, Matt Patricia's name never comes up in any of these alerts that I keep getting. So signs a bit of a bad spell of him, obviously being at the Lions and then not doing so great as the OC with the Patriots this year. Adam, you were out pretty much as soon as Seattle Seahawks won that game, and the Lions... You were out, weren't you? Seattle knocked out the Lions, I suppose.
If we had won, we were in.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the Detroit Lions, when we could just play our second team and just roll over and let our big lion belly get rubbed. But no, Aaron Rodgers. We ain't gonna let you dominate us, Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell fielded a strong team. Jamal Williams on his top game, a great game, competitive game late into the night. Just stay up for it, or was it a case of the highlights the next morning?
Do you see these? Do you see what they are? That's the pain, that is. That's the pain. Absolutely bloody awful it was. We were awful. Well, I have nothing else to say. We were awful.
And, I suppose we can sort of breach this now, I suppose. We'll talk about it now. Yeah, why not? The big rumour mill, which was always going to happen and always does happen with the Green Bay Packers, is Aaron Rodgers. That is like the thing. And of course, someone picked up on the mics that he said to James Williamson, no, I'm keeping my jersey. This one's important for the end of this game. The rumour mill's ignited. Like, let's not make no bones about it. Is this something? Are we digging too much into this, or is this just...
Who knows? Honestly, who knows? I mean, you're dealing with Aaron Rodgers. It could go any way. All you can really get from anything, and also his post-match interview as well, all you can really get from any of this is that LaFleur has come out and said he wants him back, which, of course he's going to say. And Rodgers is going to say he's going to take time and think about it. And there's just not really a lot else you can do.
And he will do in the sunniest, furthest location, Green Bay, Wisconsin, as far away as he can.
People were getting all excited about the fact that he was sort of saying goodbye to every reporter by name. He does it every year. It's not anything new. It's this is just what he does, and he could retire. If there's any quarterback out there who would be willing to leave over $50 million on the table, it would be him. And if there's any quarterback out there who would be crazy enough to think that they've actually got a chance of winning it next year, it would be him. So it really could go either way. I mean, you know how I feel about it. I've said so many times that we should have started the rebuild. So I don't know. I think when all is said and done, he won't want to go out in exactly the same way that Brett Favre did. I don't think he'll want to do that. And I think he'll want to come back and give it another go with the Packers. And, you know, despite the fact that they have been pretty bad all year, to be honest, apart from against some rough teams towards the end of the season, they weren't actually that far away again. And so I do think that he might think to himself in a month's time or so, that he's got a chance of going back to the playoffs and finishing on a more of a high than what he's finished on this time.
And Sky, when we look over to the Patriots side of the NFL, I mean, very competitive division this year. The Jets have really got a grip on it. If they had a quarterback, they could well be dangerous. The Dolphins, if they got a quarterback who could stay upright, it could be dangerous. And the Bills, who are just such a formidable team. What does the future hold for the AFC East? Because it seems to be only getting better and better and better, that division.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. Like you said, with the Jets, I think from when Hall went down with his ACL injury was a shame. You know, he was having a phenomenal rookie year. And the Jets still managed to stay somewhat competitive. But yeah, they definitely need a quarterback. I think Miami, as much as people started to get sold on Tua, I think this is obviously such a shame for him to have multiple concussions in such a short space of time. But they've almost gone out now if they did want to get another quarterback. I don't know if they would, but, you know, maybe that's something that's going to be reviewed. Bills are going to be top dogs for a while as long as Josh Allen's there, which pains me to say. But I think with the Patriots, it's just about modernizing, and there's been talk about us getting, you know, old coaches back from before. I think Cliff Kingsbury would be good as the offensive coordinator. I've seen that around on Twitter a lot today. Of course, he was drafted by Belichick, I think, in like 2003. 6th round pick, you know, he was only there for a year, but he knows him well. Might be the perfect case of not a great head coach, but good at what he does as a coordinator. So, you know, coming into New England and giving Matt Jones somebody who can sort of revitalize that offense, I think that would help a lot. So, but like you said, I think AFC East is in a good position, and the NFC East, which is weird because for years those divisions were not like that. So yeah, we're in a parallel NFL universe at the moment.
It feels that way, especially the NFC East. I feel like I need to 2 years ago, me would not believe today me if I said what the NFC East look like today. Looking at my Pittsburgh Steelers just very quickly, absolutely no way did I believe we'd get another winning season. That was far from. I fully believe that we'd get close, but not that really that close. And I'd say last few weeks we've played some phenomenal football. The errors that I knew that the Steelers were going to make at the start of the year was O-line and cornerback in that secondary. It's been the exact story the whole year, but we've really came up against it in the last few weeks. I mean, people have been really igniting Pickett last few weeks, which I don't think's right necessarily. I think everyone's sort of been like, oh well, you want to get the Steelers in the playoffs now. I'm like, well, no, they're still not great. It's just we're sort of staying competitive, you know, which is quite good. That's what happens when you have TJ Watt. You keep competitive. Loads of things to build on. Really positive for the future. All of them people that we had on the podcast, for I went on all the podcasts, just look at us now, because they all said, especially I'm talking to you, Snapback podcast, it's the guys over at
Quick Snap.
Quick Snap. Sorry, I said Snap. I don't know why. Brett in particular. Brett, the Browns fan. He said we're going to win 4 games all year. 4 games. How did the Cleveland Browns do, Brett? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. A mental scenario that we've got to win season again. Just shows how competitive we are and what when you are one of the pillars of the NFL, I suppose, like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I have to say, I did feel a bit sorry for you. I kind of felt like them last few weeks that something had changed, and I kind of felt like Pickett has developed in them last few
Yeah,
weeks a little
massively.
bit, and that was it was a bit of a shame that you didn't get in, but I suppose this is the problem when you have a rookie quarterback. It's going to take time. So, but you'd be better for next year.
The traits are starting to show. That's the most important bit. The traits are starting to show, especially that him and Pickens connection. I mean, I don't know how much of a future Deontay Johnson has in Pittsburgh, to be honest with you, because he doesn't seem to catch the ball very well at the minute. Let's have a look at the wildcard round, though. So lots going on this weekend. Saturday football, starting off with 9:30, Seattle Seahawks going to the San Francisco 49ers, 7th seed against the number 2 seed. We then go into Saturday night, Sunday morning, 1:15. We have the LA Chargers going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the 5th and the 4th seed. We have Sunday night, 6 o'clock, the Dolphins at the Bills, the 7th against the 2nd seed. And then on the late Sunday game, New York Giants against the Minnesota Vikings. We have going into Sunday night to Monday morning, 1:15. The Baltimore Ravens going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Closing out Monday night, Tuesday morning, 1:15. The Dallas Cowboys going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lots of excitement around all these franchises, I suppose, Sky, because there's a lot of teams that didn't think they were probably going to get there at the start of the year. And we didn't think that. And really the highlights for me, Seattle Seahawks, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New York Giants. There's got to be them 3 teams. They were all teams that people said would not get to the playoffs, and they've all managed to sneak in and have done it in good fashion at some stages this season.
Yeah, big shocks. I mean, the Jags. I mean, Doug Peterson's more of a quarterback whisperer, isn't he? I think he's proved that with Trevor Lawrence. He's done well there. For me, that's the most exciting matchup. Him against Justin Herbert. I really like Justin Herbert, but I feel like that could go either way just because of the coaching. You know, you probably say the Chargers have the better team, but do the Jags have the better coach? But yeah, Giants as well. I mean, I'm probably, as a Patriots fan, anything I say against the Giants is usually frowned upon because it just makes it look like that I'm being, thinking about the past. But I'm still not sold on Daniel Jones. I don't know if that's harsh because he's played well the last year, especially that. I mean, maybe he did take a lot of points off of Barkley for me in my championship fantasy game with all those rushing touchdowns. But no, still for all of those teams to make it, is a great achievement. And I think that's one of the perks of opening the playoffs up to 7 teams is just giving other teams an opportunity to get in. And I like that there's one bye as well because it makes teams have more to play for towards the end of the year. And less sort of less worthwhile games. I think we saw that in this week 18. There was a lot of games where there's still a lot on the line.
I did notice. I mean, it's happened for a few years now. This another team being added, but it did feel like that more teams play their competitive teams. They play that they don't sit. We had Sam Howell start for Washington and things like that where teams are out, but most squads are still. Really got all their starters out, still got something to play for. The only team that did it, but everyone was like, what are you doing, was the Chargers. They fielded all their stars. And they're like, no, you're in. Don't worry about it. Save yourselves. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it was, some of it was a bit strange. You did kind of feel like, what are you doing? What's the point? Especially the Chargers. Very, very odd. And they paid for it. Mike Williams went out injured and there's a chance that he's going to miss out. And that's what you get for. I mean, despite even with that happening, they were still playing with Eckler out there to the end of the game. It was such a bizarre thing, and you always run the risk of doing that. Obviously, it makes it more competitive when you do that. I mean, the amount of time that Brady was out there was a surprise. I think that was a bit of a shock for a team that couldn't really move. They had won their division. There was nothing to play for, but they still sort of played him for the length of time that they did. You can't just, I think you have to understand that obviously there is an element of pride and wanting to win and that's great. But at the same time, it is a dead game and you are potentially going to end up losing players because of it. I suppose we'll have to wait and see whether Mike Williams plays or not. I know that it's a bit 50-50 game time kind of thing. But I think that's the problem with doing that. So you got to be a bit careful, but at the same time, it's only good for us if the main guys are out there. So
I think they're criticised either way, aren't they? So I was just going to say,
a little bit.
The Patriots, when the undefeated season, of course, they started everybody beat the Giants, but then the Colts, the year that was either 15-1 or they were undefeated, they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. when Peyton Manning was there. And if you rest your starters, you get criticised by saying, oh, well, you should have put them out because they haven't played in X amount of weeks. But then if they do play and someone gets hurt on like a freak play, I mean, the Vikings got lucky with Dalvin Cook. You know, he had people thought he had done his knee this weekend, but it seems like he's all right, which is good for them. But I guess as fans, the main thing is that we get to see more closely contested games throughout the whole year. So that's nice.
Or you can play so well that you give up your first pick in the draft. You could even do that if you really fancied it, Houston Texans fans. The only good thing for me on that was that we have the Chicago Bears second round pick and it's the 32nd pick. So technically it's a first round pick. So the Steelers have 2 first round picks. Technically, not really, but technically. Let's have a look at some of these games then. I mean, we won't deep dive into all of them because we're going to probably be talking about this all week and every platform is obviously, of course. But Seattle Seahawks go to San Francisco 49ers. Adam, big game. Geno Smith over in San Francisco. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has been playing a stormer. But let's be honest, we can't be surprised when he's got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle all around him. I mean, how do you see this game go?
I think the 49ers will win it. And I think they'll win it pretty comfortably, to be honest. Seattle, I mean, obviously offensively, they're a decent side, but that defense is still not great and has struggled. You look at the stats, they give up touchdowns quite a lot in the passing game and the rushing game. So they're pretty low in that. And really, they're kind of getting out of it because Walker has done so well over the season. Tyler Lockett has been great over the season. So that's how they've kind of got away with it. The problem is they're going up against probably the second best defense in the league. I think the Broncos defense was probably the best one. This one's 49ers are probably the second best. They're away from home. I don't see this ending very well for the Seahawks, to be honest. I just think that they're too strong. And although Brock Purdy isn't really doing anything that amazing, he doesn't need to because of the scheme. It's all about the scheme. And I don't think the Seahawks are going to be able to cope with it.
What do you reckon, Sky? Is 49ers walking away with this easily?
I agree. They're going to, I reckon they'll win by at least 10. I think one credit to Brock Purdy, though, that I was looking, and just in the games I've seen, like George Kittle has been a lot more relevant, in the offense since he's been there. Like he's even spoke about them having like unreal chemistry. I think he had 2 scores again on Sunday. He overtook, I think I saw some stat about how, that was like 5 games in a row that he had 1 or more touchdowns. And he overtook Kelsey for the 3rd most receiving yards by a tight end in his first 6 years. And I think before the start of the year, everybody knows George Kittle's a great tight end because of his blocking attributes, etc. He does everything. But now we're seeing him, get the glory as well. But yeah, I think also, like Adam touched upon Seattle's defense, the only downside on that was Quandre Diggs broke his leg on Sunday, and then the rookie corner Tariq Woolen, I think he's going to be okay, but ankle injury as well, so that's going to affect their chances, especially being on the road. I know it's tough for someone to lose 3 times. That doesn't usually happen, but I don't think many people would bet against the 49ers. I'd say Niners win.
You never know. Trey Lance might be on the move in the offseason. Big Brock might get a winning job there. Him and Jimmy and Trey Lance both out of town. LA Chargers going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sky Chargers. I agree with you. You said at the point when we were talking about it a moment ago, Herbert Lawrence is probably the best quarterback matchup of this playoff bracket, I suppose. It could be fireworks in Jacksonville.
Yeah. And I think as much as the quarterbacks are the key element, it is, again, a cliche, but turnovers in this one would be key because we know how close it's going to be. And I think whoever has the better game out of Etienne and Eckler will probably be the team that wins. But I would lean towards the Chargers. I'd say 1 score, but I wouldn't be surprised if Herbert has, a good game in terms of like no picks from his side, 250 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. But if the Jags can force turnovers elsewhere on special teams or maybe a forced fumble elsewhere, then who knows?
I think for Jags, it's getting pressure on Herbert. And I didn't see the full tweet, but it looks like Rashawn Slater has been activated for the game and is probably going to be playing. How pivotal is that for them, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be huge, isn't it? I mean, he's such a great lineman for them. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. To be honest, probably the closest. You know, there's a reason that they've given it as just a 1 point advantage to the Chargers. I think it'll be really, really interesting game. I quite like the Jags even for this one. I really do. At home, I just feel like they've got something going a little bit at the moment. I think that Trevor Lawrence is doing really well. Really, both defenses are pretty evenly matched. There's not a lot when you look at stats and what they've done over the last few weeks. There's not a lot of difference between these two. I feel that the Chargers are. Me and Andrew always have this sort of thing going on in the betting show. I'm very much the Raiders of the team that always choke. He's very much the Chargers of the team that always choke. Because they both always choke. So I could see this happening. I could see the Jaguars nicking this and just sort of like getting over the line. I don't think they'll go any further than that, but I could certainly see them getting a playoff win, which first one since, is it 2016? I think it is.
2017, I believe.
2017.
I believe, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's going to be a big thing for them, and you know, a team that's been struggling for a few years now. Yeah, it's a very evenly matched set up between the two teams. But I do like the Jags just to nick it, and I think they're they've got something going there.
I'd go as far as say that's my game of the weekend. I'd say that's it. Could be really big, that game. As my granddad would say, I feel like the Jags got the rub of the green. They've just got something about them at the minute. They just look a bit more X factor at the right times. And Lawrence has really found his pace. So I really like the Jags there, to be honest. Going to Sunday, the Miami Dolphins go to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to assume Tua's playing this game. Am I wrong? I've not read anything to say the difference.
I know Mike McDaniel said something about he's not even asking him about how he's feeling. I don't know if you guys saw this. That doctor's advice that he's just leaving him to it. Is he playing it coy? And I don't know. I don't think he'll play. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I still think Buffalo, regardless. I'm sure we all do.
So if you don't play Tua, you have Teddy with a broken thumb. You play Skylar Thompson went injured, didn't he, at the weekend? Oh no, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's a lie.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Tua came out personally. I think that I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I think there's potential for him not to be hanging around in the NFL much longer, to be honest, with the way that his injury history has been this year. Again, as Sky said, does it matter? Really, I think the Bills are just too strong, and I think they'll win this one fairly comfortably at home. They don't have any weaknesses on the defense, to be honest. They're pretty strong. At the middle of the season, you could have argued that the cornerbacks, because of the injuries, but even that's not so much of an issue anymore. I just don't see the Dolphins doing anything. And this is kind of why I said it was a bit of a shame that the Steelers didn't get through. I think this would be a completely different conversation if it was the Steelers. I think the Bills would still be strong favourites and probably win it, but with the Steelers defence, it would make a much better contest. There's a reason that the Dolphins are 9.5 point favourites, and yeah, they're not going to blow it, are they? So.
I know I don't want to harp on it about too much, but there is something to be said for sport, in all sports, when you're playing for something bigger than the sport. And I feel like Buffalo's going to be feeling that. They're going to be feeling that with the Damar Hamlin stuff. And a team like Buffalo doesn't need any more fuel on the fire to be amazing, with added motivation to be going like, we are going to win it for him in a way. And I think that's so palpable in all of sport. I think it's such a massive thing. So yeah, the Bills roll the Dolphins in my opinion. The New York Giants going to the Minnesota Vikings. Interesting matchup, this one, Adam. I mean, it would be nice to have Andrew on the show, because he would have been obviously very pro Giants and tell us all about how the Giants are going to walk away with the win. But really the question is, can you stop Justin Jefferson?
You can. You saw Jair Alexander do it. You if you've got yourself a a decent corner there, you can stop Justin Jefferson. It's going to be very difficult for this Giants defense to do that, but they're not bad. You know, they have potential. It's a really difficult matchup, this one, because everything about it makes me go that the Vikings should win. And then I remember that their quarterback is Kirk Cousins. And that's just enough for me to go, he's going to bottle it. He will bottle it. It's a primetime game. It's the same old story. I think that it's really difficult. I do think they probably nick it, just because I think that they've got that better offense. They've got more options. As much as I love Barkley on the Giants side, that the other wide receivers, that they're not that great. They're not sort of playoff ready. And I think that could be the difference. And they have had an amazing season to get this far. They really have. And, you know, the O-line's been great. The D-line's been great. Brian Dable's been great for the Giants. And I just feel this might be one step too far for them at the moment.
And Sky, I have to sort of agree with him, but the Giants are just so unpredictable, aren't they? Like, they're just. Yeah. I mean, when we saw them, before we came on, Sky was telling me that, you know, he was at the Packers Giants game, just like we were, and they were not great the first quarter, and then suddenly they just ignited, and they played so solid the rest of the game, and they do find good performances against good teams, don't they?
Yeah, sort of. I don't want to go against them, and like Adam said, I keep chopping and changing, and Brian Dable's probably, for me, head coach of the year, if not maybe Mike Tomlin. You know, he's definitely in that discussion with how quick he's turned around the Giants. Again, another big Barkley fan, but I think, I just expect Jefferson to be the difference maker, because I don't think they have anyone in their secondary where, you know, like Jair Alexander did, or what the Packers can do. And I think also as well, like outside of Barkley, again, like Adam said, who really is Daniel Jones throwing to? I think the main thing, if they can keep him contained in the pocket and force him to have to throw the ball instead of scrambling and sort of moving the chains that way, then the Vikings defense could sort of home in on forcing turnovers and getting, you know, 3 and out. So I would, one score game, but I'd still go with Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Minnesota as well. I just think they've got these stages, you need X Factor players, and Vikings have got a fair few. The Baltimore Ravens going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Some would argue the Bengals are the team you do not want to play in the playoffs, because it's cold, it's windy. They went and did it last year. They went all the way to the Super Bowl last year, and they've got such good talent, haven't they, Sky? I mean, Joe Burrow's just not lost a step here, and the Ravens are banged up. No Lamar. They found a way to win games without him, but I just wouldn't want to play the Bengals right now. They find ways to win, don't they?
Yeah, and I feel like they're just a likable team for everybody. You know, Joe Burrow, Chase, even Boyd and Higgins, Mixon. They've even got P. Ryan involved, you know, towards the second half of the season. Like, they've got a lot of playmakers. And I think, like they proved last year, when the lights are the brightest and the pressure's on, Burrow's not phased. The Bengals are not phased. And I think whether Lamar Jackson plays or not, considering he hasn't played in a few weeks, I would still back Cincinnati. And I don't think the Chiefs will want to see them again. You know, Bengals are their bogey team, at least in their last few encounters. And I would say Bengals probably by maybe even double digits. But yeah, Cincinnati. If I was, you know what, I'm that sold on the Bengals lately. If I was probably picking a team to follow today, it'd be the Bengals. I think their road jerseys are the best in the league as well, the white ones. So we've got a big secret Bengals fan here.
The Ravens, Adam, I mean, their defense is pretty good. Not really got the X factor on offenses that they need to come against a Bengals team that has a really good offense and defense, right? and good everywhere on defense. Their defense has not missed a step from. They were slow starting at the start of the year, I suppose, compared to the end of last year, but I think that's recency bias. They've grown into themselves. And the offense, I don't think has been maybe given the credit as much as that, because Mixon's not played the whole season. Chase hasn't played the whole season, and yet they didn't miss a step the whole time. They did not miss a step without them big players. Joe Burrow finds a way to make it work.
Well, if you've got T. Higgins on your team, what do you expect? I mean, you know,
well,
Dynamite.
Either another team, though, is he? You know,
Yeah.
he's still the number 2 on this team.
Yeah, they look great. They really do. Defensively, very strong. The Ravens, like you said, got a strong defense as well, so they're pretty equal defensively. But when it comes to the offense, the Bengals are just a step above, and I think they've just got too many weapons to beat the Ravens. I don't know if Jackson's going to be back. From everything that Harbour said, there hasn't really been any sort of indication that he's going to be or not. It's a bit 50-50 at the moment. I can't see him being back, to be honest. And as Sky said, even if he does come back, what exactly are we going to be having from him? Yeah, I think the Bengals would be too strong. The offense is too good. Very likable team. Very high scoring offense all the time. So everyone's going to love them. I'd like to see him go all the way. I really would, but I don't know. There's some good teams out there, but I'd like to see him go all the way. 7-point favourites. I think they'll win it. Cover the spread easily as well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a comfortable win in Cincinnati as well. And then the last game of the weekend will be the Dallas Cowboys going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A game I have to admit, Adam, I'm not going to be running to my telly to watch this game.
You're not staying up for this one, no?
Sky, unfortunately, I have a little bit of a thing against the Cowboys this year. I just don't really get it. I just don't think they're that good. No, I just don't.
I'm sold, but I shouldn't be. But I'm sold on them.
I just don't get it, man. It's Parsons, and that's it. Like I saw that, but then the Bucs. I don't think the Bucs are that great this year either. No. Like, but they haven't been great. They're 8-9. They're in a losing record, and they got through to the playoffs. You know, so that's saying something, I suppose. A game, Adam, that I won't be rushing to the TV for, but will you be willing to see Tom Brady potentially in his last playoffs, maybe, or
no? I hope the Cowboys finally kill off this Bucs team. I really do. They have been dire all season. They're horrible to watch. It's just run the ball, throw it, miss, run the ball. It's not fun to watch. They're not going to score a lot of points. Cowboys are favourite for this game. They should beat them offensively. And that Cowboys defense is no joke as well. I know a lot of people just say Parsons, and it is predominantly Parsons, but they have got some really good pieces on there. I've been saying it ever since Dan Quinn's been there, that he was going to make a massive difference there, and he really has for that team. So I like the Cowboys defense against this Buccaneers offense that I know that Mike Evans suddenly decided to turn up in the last game, and that was great, but there's not a lot there. There just isn't, and they're just not very good, and really don't deserve to be in the playoffs at all.
Well, that was quite a scathing review of the Buccaneers. I was not actually prepared for that. I was like, whoa, you went time there, buddy. Jeez. It's because the Bucs are the Packers number for a fair few years, isn't it, as well? That is your added heat onto this. Sky, in your opinion, the Cowboys going to roll the butt. Have we been too harsh? Harsh about it?
I mean, obviously being a Patriots fan, being a massive Tom Brady fan, I think he will show up to the point that they won't go quietly. Even when they lost to the Rams, they still had that late sort of rally. But I think Dallas's defense is too good to lose to an offense stuttering that much, like Adam said. I mean, Todd Bowles just doesn't, whatever plays they call, I don't know, they get like 1 yard for back-to-back runs and then a wide receiver screen, or Brady just throws it up and hopes for a PI call or something. I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah, it's weird. And I think Dallas, like, I'm sold on them. I know Mike McCarthy, sorry, Adam, as a Packers head coach, would always find a way for it to go wrong, which I guess is what people think is going to happen with Dallas at some point. But I'm just impressed.
It ain't a thinking moment, Sky. It's going to happen. Like, we are like so bought in on that.
I just think that sometimes you get lucky in the sense that, and obviously it wasn't good that Prescott got injured at the start of the year, but they managed to rally behind the defense. Cooper Rush was in. Prescott's come back. Yes, they've had a few hit and miss performances in the last few weeks, but I still think with what they've got with Pollard, Elliott, Lamb, other guys on that offense, even if people are banged up, whatever, you know, there's enough people there to plug in and enough talent on both sides of the ball to at least make noise, you know, in the playoffs. And I think they'll win this one, but I don't think Brady will retire. He'll be back again. Sorry to disappoint you both.
Yeah, probably in Las Vegas or wherever he's meant to be. It seems every day the rumor mill is that he's going to be somewhere else. Just quick shout out to Fourth and Flex Fantasy Football, giving us comment. What's going on, fellas? We're doing all good. Just chatting some NFL. Lots to talk about still. That is all the playoffs that we are talking about, though. I'm just trying to load up just so I can see their standings. But 2 departures of head coaches this week. 2 firings, I suppose you should call it. Sackings, firings, one of them. Lovie Smith over at the Houston Texans and Cliff Kingsbury over at Arizona Cardinals. And a lot of murmurs that Sean McVay's going to walk away. And a lot of murmurs that Denver Broncos are willing to give up further draft picks to try and get Sean Payton into town. Sky, firstly, we'll talk about 2 guys that have gone, Lovie Smith and Cliff Kingsbury. Rightfully so, in your opinion, or do you think Houston maybe so much chops and change, but then at the same time, and then Arizona, it was Cliff and Kyler. It was meant to be this bright future. They've been on the cusp of that great winning streak for the other season. Didn't work out. Not really come to fruition. How are you feeling about both these guys leaving and departing?
I think Arizona's right. I think it just seemed to go a bit stale in the end. I know it's obviously unfortunate Kyler Murray got hurt, but even before that, they didn't look great. And I think a new head coach, if they can hold on to DeAndre Hopkins with Hollywood Brown as well, there's pieces there for a fresh mind to come in and make it work. With the Texans, I don't know. I keep changing my mind. I mean, I think it's harsh that we knew how bad Houston were before the start of the season. They still managed to be competitive in the last few weeks. But I think, unfortunately, for Lovie Smith, they got a lot of cap space, a lot of draft picks. And when you have that, it makes, even if it's not the most attractive franchise on paper, you can get almost any name you want through the door. When you've got that, you've got the draft capital. And like you said with Denver, I mean, that's the only thing where I think, does Sean Payton really want to go there if they've got no picks? What are they going to give up? Whereas, I mean, you wouldn't see him in Houston, but they can pitch that to people. So I wouldn't say it's the right decision, but I understand why. I wasn't surprised, especially after they managed to move up to the second pick. By winning that game, I thought, he hasn't done himself any favors there.
It's an easier sell, I think, next year for you to go. We take Bryce Young with the 1 pick. He looked okay. Okay, we're going to fire the coach, but you've got Bryce Young or whoever they pick, CJ Stroud or whoever they pick in that position, I suppose. What do you think about the rumor mill, Adam? You're one who loves a rumor. You love a gossip. You do. You're infamous for it. What do you think about it all? Huh?
Which one, McVay?
Yeah, McVay. Yeah, he's like real young still. Everyone's like the McVay tree. Everyone wanted a coach like McVay. He's not exactly like the wrong side of the age bracket. He's still fairly young. He's done a good job with the LA Rams. He's produced a whole new level and thinking of coaching, it feels like, and yet there's a lot of rumors that he's just going to go.
Well, I suppose if you put it all together, you've got Stafford, who's basically broken. Aaron Donald's another year older. Cooper Kupp is another year older. The Rams have no draft picks. So, if Amazon come knocking, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it, really? I mean, I kind of get it.
He's made a legacy in like 5 years as well.
Yeah.
Like, he's made the NFL way of thinking has changed because of him. The whole game plan has changed because of the ideas that he's implemented alongside, is it Les Snead, I believe, is the GM there. And, giving away the first round picks and building a team. I mean, he's been to 2 Super Bowl finals and won one of them. In fact, he's been to more. Has he been to more? He's been to 3.
I can't remember. No, 2, isn't it?
Lost to the Patriots. I'm happy to say that. And then, then the win that they
lost
got.
The Patriots
beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
But it's still competitive. I think this is probably the first year that they weren't. But I think, like you said, he's not going to want to be part of a rebuild. He can go on TV for a few years and then pick the best job at the time when someone wants him.
Yeah, I think it's an obvious one, isn't it? Really, and then like with the rest of them, I don't really get why Sean Payton would want to go to Denver. I don't really see it. I mean, I think we've all been quite rough on Russell Wilson, and he's had a really bad season. But at the same time, it's like I think there's still a player in there. It's just a matter of getting a coach that can get it out of him again. But I don't know if Sean Payton would want to be doing that. I think he probably wants to go somewhere where there's already a solid or more solid quarterback than what there is. Cliff Kingsbury, it's just weird. The Cardinals are just weird as a team. You know, sign him up till 2027 and then fire him at the end of the season. Very strange indeed. And Lovie Smith, I feel like he deserves a contract just for the beard. I mean, it's a brilliant beard, isn't it? It really is. I feel a bit sorry for him because he was on a losing battle from day one. That Texans franchise is an absolute mess at the moment, absolute mess. And I think you could put anyone in there. I don't see it changing.
Do you think there's any? Who would you say might be next? I mean, the problem is this year a lot of people have gone mid-season, haven't they? You know, Frank Reich, he got fired. I mean, there was a rumor mill going around that Steelers would like the idea of Frank Reich as OC, which I'm completely for. I am totally down for that if they want to get Frank Reich. I mean, a team of Mike Tomlin, Frank Reich, and God, what's his name? Brian. What was his name? The Miami coach, head coach, Miami.
Oh, Daboll.
Brian Flores.
No, not Daboll.
Brian Flores. Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
Brian Flores. Yeah, he's a linebacker coach. I mean, man, I'd be rocking with that.
The Browns want him, apparently. Yeah, I mean, he'll be a good hire wherever he goes. Yeah.
Do you think there's any risk of anyone else then, really? The only one that I'm sort of looking at is you could maybe argue Kevin Stefanski just because but then they've just got if they get Watson for the full year.
I don't see anyone else. I said this. I think we were talking about this, and it feels very much like there was so many changes last year that you can't make the changes this year, kind of thing. It's like you've got to give them some form of time, so it's going to be very difficult to move off a lot of these. I don't really see there being much. There might be the odd one or two. I mean, I could see maybe like the Panthers taking someone instead of staying with Steve Wilks. I think Wilks probably deserves it, but I could see them changing it. The Bucks with Todd Bowles, they might decide to change it, especially if Brady does move on. I could see that happening. There's a lot of talk about Jim Harbaugh coming out from Michigan and coming into the NFL again. So I think you might see that happen. I know both the OC and the DC from the Eagles are being interviewed in a lot of places. So yeah, I think you might see a few different changes, but I don't think you're going to see anything particularly shocking.
I mean, I'm just having a quick look just in case. The Washington Commanders have got rid of their offensive coordinator, which is not like he's going to get snapped up anytime soon, I suppose. Anything else? Oh, I did get one thing wrong. Sean Slater will not be playing in this game for the Chargers. He'll be back if they progress. So that could be an interesting. Trayvon Walker, you never know, could be eating on Justin Herbert. Lots to be excited about, Sky. Lots to be excited about, Adam. Thank you both for joining me this evening. Really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to us on YouTube, onto all podcasting platforms. We are on all social media. Make sure you go and check us out. We have started releasing articles as well. Franchise Tag is hitting the written forum, the written word. Yes, we know how to write over here, not just speak. How crazy that must be for you. What a game changer in the world of Franchise Tag podcast. So make sure you keep an eye out for our articles, as well as Off Grid NFL, who do a fantastic job with their articles as well. Lots of exciting things coming your way for the rest of the NFL season. Until then, have a good rest of your week. Enjoy the first weekend of the playoffs.